So I've been involved in the industry for about 15 years, buying, managing, selling different websites, online businesses, and I also run a popular podcast in the space called The Domain Magnate Show. And besides that, I'm a traveler, and I used to be a digital nomad. I do not consider myself a digital nomad anymore because I am more or less living in Chiang Mai in Thailand now, but I was a nomad for a few years before that. And thanks for the likes. So the podcast we have, in case you're interested to learn more about the industry of buying, selling, and growing digital businesses, check out our podcast. We have many industry leaders and interesting discussions. It's called The Domain Magnate Show, and it's available on YouTube and everywhere else. And we've had some famous guests, including, for example, Matt Berry, the owner of Freelancer.com and Escrow.com, the CEO of Flippa, the CEO of Empire Flippers, and many others. All right, so what is this buying online businesses all about? Some of you probably have a pretty good idea about it already because you run online businesses, or maybe you acquired or sold some before, but others might have no idea. In general, it's kind of similar to offline businesses, except it's completely remote. Generally, online businesses can be run from anywhere, so that's a good fit for digital nomads. Also, the multiples, the prices are usually lower compared to offline businesses. And there is more opportunities because it's not tied to any specific location. The online businesses typically differ based on the type of business and also the source of traffic and revenue. So you could have a business that's, for example, an e-commerce business that sells some online products, not online, actually physical products. Or you could have a business selling digital products, or you could have a business that earns its revenue from advertising or ad sales. So that's on the monetization side. And then, or you could also have a subscription-based model like SaaS, or a service-based business on the monetization side. And in terms of the traffic side, you could have a business that receives traffic from Google Search, from Google Organic. You could have paid traffic and free traffic. You could have social traffic. So there is quite a high variety of opportunities for businesses to acquire or build and run. In terms of price ranges, so if you buy an online business right now, and we are only talking about businesses that are actually profitable, typically you would expect to pay between 2 and 4 times of the annual profit. So if you want to buy a business that's making, let's say, $10,000 per year, you would expect to pay something like $30,000. And that's pretty useful to know because that allows you to estimate what kind of return you might get. Of course, the main challenge with this kind of investment, this kind of position, is that you have to really be good at managing a business. And managing an online business is kind of similar to managing an offline business. So if you've never done it before, imagine managing like a grocery store, right? You have to go and buy the groceries, you have to get clients, you have to do some advertising, promotion. So it's sort of like that. And some businesses might be easier to manage, others might be a lot more intense to manage. The good thing about the industry also is that it's growing very rapidly. So like 15, 16 years ago, when I was just starting out, there was no industry. We just had a few different online forums and communities. There was no Facebook at the time, by the way. So just some communities where you would go and ask if you can buy a website or if you can sell a website, and maybe someone would buy or sell with you and would trade with you. And then gradually over the past decade or so, it grew into this really quite a substantial industry now, where you have many brokers, marketplaces, selling online businesses and digital sites. And right now the demand exceeds supply, meaning that there is a lot more buyers and investors looking to acquire online businesses versus sellers, especially sellers with actually quality businesses to sell. And another interesting thing to note is that quality tends to increase with size. So if you buy a bigger business, like let's say if you buy a business for $1 million, it's going to be far more trustworthy and higher quality and lower risk than a business that's much lower, that's much smaller. So that's important to keep in mind if you are considering to invest in that. Now, on the other side of it, how do you prepare your business to sell it? And if you have an online business that's profitable or even not, chances are you've considered selling it. And often what happens is people don't really know where to start. Now, the first thing to start with is always the numbers. So before you go and start offering the business for sale to anyone or listing it anywhere, like make sure that you have your numbers in order. So get your spreadsheets, get your accounting in order, and make sure that you know exactly how much you made in profit this year, last year. So once you finished with that, the next part would be to make sure that you're tracking your traffic very well. So Google Analytics, as well as more advanced tools, and ensure that you have good details to share with the buyers later. Then the next stage, you can also look into what you can optimize better, depending on what the timeline for sale is. If you want to sell it like in 3 to 6 months, or maybe in a year, you have a longer time period to consider it and try to optimize your website or your online business so that you are earning more revenue, and then you can sell for more money. And you can also try to monetize it better by finding better monetization options, better products to promote, better paying affiliate products, and things like that. The next step is organize your processes. So no matter how small or how big the business is, buyers always want to see that you have some SOPs, standard operating procedures, and some organized processes in the business. That could be documents, it could be videos, but it's very important that the buyer who would consider your business can see that they can take over the business and continue operating it smoothly with their own team and learn the process quickly by just looking at the materials that you have. And then the next step is, of course, pick a broker or pick a marketplace or decide basically how you want to sell it. And these first 4 steps are pretty universal. So wherever you go, if you talk to any broker or if you go to list it on the marketplace, they would ask these details. And so you have to be ready, and generally they would give you the same advice. So to sum it up, get your financials in order, make sure that you have all the proofs and tracking and everything, and see if you can optimize and also organize things better. Now, where can you sell your business? There are currently quite a few different options. So there is marketplaces like Flippa and Empire Flippers. And there are smaller marketplaces as well, like Motion Invest and others. And some of them are curated, where everything is checked and verified before it's listed. Some of them are not really curated, where everyone can list without as much verification. And there are also many brokers. So, for example, we Dealflow Brokerage, and we also broker businesses. There are many other brokers, really dozens, that offer similar services. Some of them specialize on a specific market, specific business type, like FBA businesses that are fulfilled by Amazon, or e-commerce businesses or content businesses. Others focus on a specific range and so on. So it can be a little bit overwhelming, frankly, if it's the first time that you are coming to this space and you're trying to figure out how to sell your business. Now, the best way, and my first advice, is try to sell directly to your competitors or contacts. So if you have someone who is a direct competitor or someone who could benefit strategically by acquiring your business, that would be a first go-to, especially if you already have an existing relationship with them. And they can often pay more than what other buyers would pay who are just investors. So the first step is to check with them. And if you don't find any interest, or if you don't find any good offers among your direct competitors and your existing contacts, then you can go and either list with marketplaces and brokers. Typically for bigger businesses that have value in 6-7 figures and higher, it's advised to list with a broker. While for smaller businesses, you can generally put them on marketplaces. But that's not a set rule. So it's up to you to really research and understand what the benefit and downside of each option is. And I'm, of course, a little biased, but I can suggest that you work with us and work with Dealflow Brokerage, or you can also sell a business to us directly. So at the Main Magnet, we buy businesses, and we are able to, if it fits our criteria, we are able to make a direct offer. That would be a faster process. And now, how does the process typically work to sell your business? The first step is, after you've completed all the preparational steps we've seen previously in one of the previous slides, when you decide to list it or sell it, the first thing is you'll have to discuss a price and decide on the structure of the sale. Sometimes the structure is just straightforward. You get the money and you transfer the business, and that's it. Other times it can be a little more complex, with some additional earnout or a longer period with multiple payments. I really recommend that you have a detailed agreement that covers all aspects of the transaction and the process of transfer and selling, and also that you use a third-party escrow like escrow.com. And if you've never done it before, it's probably best to have someone help, either a broker or someone else, because the process can be a little complex. We've done over 100 of this kind of business transfers, and we still sometimes stumble with things. So it's not so simple. Now, there are many interesting opportunities in this market of buying and selling businesses. And if you decide to go more into it and really want to learn about it, the biggest opportunities are in gaps that exist in different price ranges. It's the LSM advantages that you can bring to the board, to the acquisition that you are buying. And you also have to understand deals in order to be able to really make good deals. So we, like I mentioned, we've been in business for about 15 years, and we've done about 300 successful deals. We also have about 20 team members, and we have a few different services that we offer to investors. We buy and manage businesses for individual investors. We also do some due diligence and concierge buying, and we also currently operate 2 funds, and we are launching a 3rd fund soon, where we raise capital from investors for our funds, and then we go and acquire and grow businesses with that capital and distribute profits. Because we buy directly, we have some distinct advantages to sellers. So we currently focus on buying businesses with organic traffic from Google, and that are mostly monetized via affiliate or service-based businesses, or also ads. So if you have a business that's in that area and valued around 6-figure range, feel free to go to submit it to us. And sorry, if you sell it directly to us, that's generally better because it's an efficient, a quick process, and you know that you are dealing with someone who is a very experienced buyer. So you won't have to speak to many different buyers and educate them on how the business works. I'm gonna skip this one because, and so this is part of our team. And we have, like I mentioned, we have a team of about 20, and part of our team focus on deals, and the other part focus on growth. And we also have some people that maintain the technical side of things. We work with a few agencies as well. And we have partnerships with different companies in the industry. We're also, more recently, we've started focusing more on making sure that we have a positive impact on the market, and also focusing more on sustainability trends in the private equity space. And this is also quite a growing trend, which is really interesting. You may have seen many of the bigger private equity firms divesting from things that they deem to be less long-term and less sustainable, like fossil fuels, for example. While at the same time, there are many funds coming up now that focus specifically on sustainable businesses. And that's something that we've been incorporating in the past few years, focusing more on acquiring businesses that are sustainable and that aim to make the world a better place. And I think that's something that's nice to aspire to. Also support sustainability by having all our team work remotely. And most of our clients we deal with also work remotely. And we maintain an inclusive workforce and encourage connections within our remote team. We also work a lot with digital nomads. Some of our team members are digital nomads, and our clients are often digital nomads. And when you think about it, it's really one of the best businesses for digital nomads. If you can go and buy a business and run it, and and generate revenue for that, that allows you really the freedom to travel and live wherever you want. We have many advantages compared to our competitors in the space, including private network, transparency, many proprietary systems, and more experience. And this is something that may be more interesting. Recently, we've shared publicly the results of our first fund. And you can see we've had a good return of 134% in the first year and a half. And if you're curious, you can also look it up, Fund 1, Domain Magnate. And we've shared in more details the acquisitions that we've made in the fund and how that played out. So we strive to show more transparency. We've also released quite a few case studies that you can find on our website, case studies of different websites that we've acquired, increased, grown, and then resold. So you can find them by just going to our blog at domainmagnate.blog. Well, we have a few feedbacks, testimonials here, of course. And this is the fund that we are launching currently. So the fund targets a raise of $10 million, and the minimum investment is $120,000. And we will be debuting profits quarterly. And the fund is going to be launched officially on April 25th. So that's quite soon. I see Diego says he cannot hear me. I hope everyone can hear me. But if not, let me know. And that's it. Okay, thank you for the thumbs up. Yeah, any questions? Okay, the first question from Yorin. Are there any pitfalls that you have to take care of when buying into an online business? Yeah, definitely. So there is pitfalls that I would say most of those pitfalls are usually in due diligence. So the way we do it is we have several steps of due diligence because we review many deals. So first we look at some basics, and then as the closer we get to the acquisition, the closer we look into it. The specific pitfalls really depend on the type of business. So that's why it's really important to focus on a specific type of business and really learn more about it. So for example, we focus on content businesses and sites with organic traffic. So the main pitfalls in that area are usually then people sell sites that are very new, that have like lower quality content and lower quality backlink profile. And then it's just very dangerous because with this recent Google updates, you are basically like asking for trouble, and sooner or later this kind of lower quality SEO gets punished. So it's important to be able to understand what's like good content, bad content, and what's like good or bad quality backlinks. Which are the most common businesses that people sell currently? That's a good question. So that depends also on the price range. So oh yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, I had my microphone up. Yeah, I was really wondering, which is the, which area, which are the businesses that you are dealing with mostly,
Sure. So we mostly deal with businesses in the range of like $100,000 to $500,000. Sometimes we buy bigger or smaller ones, but that's kind of the main range. And our expertise are in organic traffic and also in content and SaaS space. So mostly we acquire businesses that are SaaS or content. And in terms of what are the most common businesses that people sell currently, also under like 100,000, it's mostly content affiliate sites. So something like Amazon affiliate sites, so AdSense monetized. Then it goes higher. It's more about e-commerce and FBA business now. SaaS are also rather common, but usually in higher ranges.
Okay. So do you have one expert advice on which websites you can buy great web projects or websites, as you were telling?
Sure. So I would recommend, well, first of all, it depends on your budget. So like if you are looking to spend like $10,000, that would be different from like $500,000. But there are some things that are still sort of similar. So the first step would be to figure out what your budget is. And then next, also understand what are some of your advantages. The most common mistake I've seen people make who are looking to buy their first business is they would just start looking at deals and then go and acquire a deal without really understanding what it takes to manage or maintain a website. So it's really important to know that you can operate the business successfully before you start looking at evaluating different options.
And which are the most important skills that you would say? What are the top 3 skills to run a website and to keep it profitable as it is, or to make it profitable?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the skills is actually delegating, and that's become even more important recently. Because on one side, it's kind of really easy to delegate things. You just go to Upwork and post a project. But on the other side, it's actually very hard because most of the time you might end up with people who won't be able to do exactly the way you need it. And then you have to manage things. So that's one kind of simple skill. You also have to understand the kind of the business model, have some experience in the business model. So if it's e-commerce, you have to know a little bit about e-commerce. If it's content, you have to understand content. And then also just put in the time, because people usually underestimate the amount of time it takes to manage an online business.
Okay. I would say before wrapping up the session here, we have one last question that Christoph is asking here, which is a very profane one. How does it work with taxes? Yeah,
that's also a good question. So it depends by the country, of course, but in the US, for example, it varies, right? Like you can assign it as like as a business, you can assign it as a business acquisition if you already have an online business that's something somewhat related. And or you can assign it, you can like treat it as an asset purchase and acquisition. And usually tax-wise, it's recommended to keep the business for at least 1 year, so that when you resell it, you pay lower taxes. Okay. But I mean, it's kind of flexible based on jurisdiction and the way you treat it.
And you could maybe also have your business in another country where you have better advantages in terms of taxes and so on, right?
Yeah, exactly. Being a digital nomad, you can also have a residency in a country where you don't actually have to pay taxes. So that's what many people usually do as well.
I see. Okay, great. Michael, thank you so much again for the insights on this, let's say more practical sides on how to do business, or let's say, for example, I'm not so super familiar with that. So I was like, okay, how does that work? You apparently need a good amount of money in the beginning to invest, I would say. And and then you need to get into that as in every field that you want to get into, whatever it is,
Yeah, absolutely. For people looking to enter the space, I would recommend like starting small, just like assign a small part of the budget and then maybe buy smaller websites to learn more how it works. And then once you feel comfortable, go for something bigger.
Right. Okay. Then everybody, thank you so much for listening to Michael. A big applause, please. Give him some kudos here. And I'm sending greetings to, you said Chiang Mai, right?
Yep, Chiang Mai. Well, thanks everyone. Pleasure. Yeah, pleasure to be here. Yeah. And if you have any questions, feel free to just contact me directly on michael@themainmagnet.com.